All right. Welcome back to another debate. Today, the topic is free college and whether we should have free college or not. Before we begin, you guys just want to quickly introduce yourselves. If Angelina, if you want to go first.
Okay, well, my name's Angelina. I'm part of the Middle Ground Hype House. We're kind of a page that involves people of all ends of the political spectrum. We come together and we focus on bipartisanship and like respectful conversation. And yeah, I'm taking the stance that I believe that local or in-state college for 4 years, so like a bachelor's degree, should be free or tuition paid.
Wait, Isaac said that he can't hear you.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you.
Wait, that's
Were
weird.
you able to hear?
Yeah, I heard her. Okay.
All right.
That's. Wait. Isaac, do you want to just to leave and then join again?
Leave the stream and then join it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, and then rejoin. Yep.
All right.
Okay.
All right, I'll try.
All right. Do you like the background? The gradient blue pink background?
Yeah, I like it.
Looks
It's like
sick.
cotton candy.
Yeah.
And honestly, the issue can honestly be me. My Wi-Fi isn't that great. Sorry about that.
It's okay. It's okay. Oh, he's. Angelina, can you say something and see if you could hear you?
Yeah, I could hear it now.
Oh, cool.
Okay. All right. So, do you want to continue, Isaac? Just to introduce yourselves.
Yeah. My name is Isaac, and I run an Instagram account called Isaac's Art Creations, but it's not political or anything. It's just art.
All right. If you guys have, your opening statements or like any remarks you want to make in the beginning, and then if you guys have like contentions or whatever, you guys could go from there. I'll basically be chilling here. If things kind of get out of hand, I'll jump in, but I don't really think it's gonna happen. But it's all you guys now.
All right. Do you want to go first?
Sure. So I believe that tuition should be paid for the first 4 years, in-state tuition, for lots of reasons. Mainly because one, we can afford it, because I know that's the main argument. A lot of people say that we can't afford it, that there's nowhere we can take our money from, our taxes will go up like crazy. And I found solutions that won't happen. It will help with attendance. 65% of jobs require a college degree, and only 35% of males and 36% of females actually go to college and finish 4 years. So I feel like we need to get more people in the college classroom. Along with that, there is a huge doctor shortage here in America. By, I think, the next decade, we're going to be short of 40 to 122,000 physicians. And a way that we can help with that, because that is a big deal, especially regarding, the whole healthcare argument, is by making medical school affordable. But not only medical school, but also psychology. There's a shortage of psychologists and lots of other careers. So I feel like it can help with that too.
All right. Well, I know you bring up that, that the main argument is the money and everything. That's a big part of it. Cato's Institute for Educational Freedom said that that people pay $77,500 in taxes over a lifetime for free college. And I know there's other ways that we can pay for it, but we could talk about that later. But college only covers 39.5% of tuition costs per college board, and other things are like room and board, transportation, stuff like rent and food covers everything else. And we could go with the money, but the argument doesn't stop with the money though. When people that go to college, 44% of people coming out of it are underemployed. And that means they do not have like a stable job with things like healthcare benefits. Deloitte it's a professional services institute, said in a study in 2018 that between 2018 and 2028, there will be a shortage of 2.4 million manufacturing jobs. And then they went on to say it will give a $2.5 trillion hit on the economy. And that shortage would just grow exponentially larger in a free college system. And I think it would be much better if we encourage people to go into things like trade or vocational schools instead of college, because I don't think people come out of college often getting their money's worth.
I actually agree with that. Partially that we should be encouraging people to go with other careers, but I feel like the thing is that college, a lot of people grow up wanting to go to college. They have this career set in mind and they want to do it. Like, for example, like I said, the doctor shortage, becoming a doctor. But the issue is that once they finally get there, that they can't afford it. And like you said, if we encourage people to go into other jobs, but we also provide free college, then hypothetically we wouldn't even have to pay that much for that free college because not as many people would be going into it if we promoted other things. Along with that, a lot of people who don't receive the benefits that have a college education, I don't have a statistic for this, but I would assume that it's exponentially more if you don't have a college education whatsoever in those fields. Like, for example, the school system. If you're a counselor, if you're a lead counselor, you have your degree, then you have healthcare benefits, dental benefits, you have time off, etc. But if you're a registrar, which is, hypothetically, they do the same things. They're both in charge of summer school. They do a lot of the same things. They get paid half the amount. So I feel like having free college wouldn't really affect as much if we kind of just promoted both in the same light.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. What do you mean by like promoting it? Like, how would you go about? You're just talking about like the education system in general, like schools, or we should just everybody encourages like families and stuff not to be promoting college as much, basically.
Pretty much. Like, I know where I went to elementary school, like there was a big sign that said like coyotes are college bound, like go to college, like we're going to college. And
Yeah,
I feel like if there was less pressure on that and more pressure on, other jobs, manufacturing, military, etc., then it could, it could help people's livelihoods. But at the same time, I think people who want to go to college and who have that drive to do it should be able to do it without giving up their firstborn child.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't think you have to make it free. I think you could make it a lot more affordable. Like, well, first of all, the Urban Institute says that 27% of people already go to college with no college fees. But I looked at Andrew Yang's plan in particular. He was on the Joe Rogan show talking about it, and I did some research, and it said that like in 1970, there was a 50-to-1 administrator to student ratio, and that has gone down now to 21-to-1. And if you can make college substantially cheaper, if you make the colleges get it back up to a ratio, even to like 30-to-1, that would help a lot. It's the reason why college has gotten exponentially more expensive, in large part has to do with administrators and faculty and staff and kind of over hiring when you don't need all of them. And oh yeah, you could go.
No, you can keep going.
Yeah, the career match says the average college professor makes around $75,000 a year, and there are 1.7 million college teachers in the U.S. So if you did the math, that would make it $127,500,000,000 dollars a year. That's how much it costs to pay all these professors and administrators.
But I feel like we can pay it though. Like there's a lot of places that we can draw money from where we can essentially pay that off. And not to mention that colleges are so profitable and so for profit. It's kind of it's a little ridiculous. We can definitely for that we can pull money. I'm not saying now. I'm gonna bring up the military budget. And whenever somebody brings it up, it's like, no, like we can't, like, no, don't touch it. But listen. We have a $607 billion base budget. That's just for the bases alone. And we have a $69 billion war budget. Now, hypothetically, if we were to give free college, and this is like everywhere, not just local, if we were to give free tuition, it would cost about approximately $79 billion per year. So if we pulled some money out of, we could close one military base in Germany. Hypothetically, there's lots over there, and it could help exponentially. And then not only that, attendance policies. In 2016, the federal government spent $91 billion on policies that subsidized college. We can take money from there. Tax credit and benefits. I'm getting all this from the New York Times, by the way. There's a $37 billion went towards tuition tax credits and other benefits, which highly helps the upper class, people who could probably afford in-state tuition without that help. So if we made it a little more broad and put it towards, everywhere, specifically people who can't afford it, if not complete free college, then that could help tremendously too. So I feel like we have places to pull the money from.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some plans too, but I think, there's a lot of alternate proposals that can make it really affordable and easy for kind of everybody to pay instead of, trying to pull money from a lot of places like military bases. And I heard Sanders propose a plan where he would do like a speculation tax thing on Wall Street, and that could, do things like take like traders away and put them into things like overseas markets and encourage less kind of high rolling, investments, because the tax would make it so you can't really make a profit off it. But I heard that Yang's alternate proposal is that we could have a 10 by 10 payment plan, and that means 10% of your wage for 10 years, and then you're done with the college. So I think doing a different plan like that without, trying to take money out from a lot of places could really a better solution.
But let's say hypothetically we were to do that, so much money already comes out of people's checks. Like their Social Security, there's their healthcare, dental, so on and so forth. And I'm not sure because I didn't obviously look at I didn't look into Andrew Yang, but I'm assuming that he's talking about that like in the broad of his campaign, like if he were to implement a UBI. Because if he were, then yeah, but he's not. And I feel like taking another 10% out of people's checks is gonna do a little bit more harm than good.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of other problems, like with free college too. Like James Clyburn out of Minnesota, forget where he's from, but I think he's from South Carolina. He said that it could put black colleges, out of business because in a way these colleges are competing in a market, and when you make it free college, that means that that market system is it's kind of not there anymore, and I feel like that will make a lot of private colleges go out of business, and that's where like tens of thousands of professors work also. And then I think that will make it so public universities don't have to innovate as much anymore.
Can you like because I feel like with my idea there would still be private university, right? And I feel like if you can afford to go to a really high end private, like, because a lot of kids grow up wanting to go to a private Christian university. Like, I'm in Texas, so many people here are like die to go to St. Mary's because they're Catholic, right? Like, they grow up wanting to go there. So how exactly would it necessarily hurt them? Because it's still more expensive. Like, you can go here locally for 10,000 a year, or you can go to St. Mary's for 40,000 a year, and they still, try and want to go to St. Mary's. So how would it necessarily put them out of business?
I think if you make it free, I think when you say it's free, then I think a lot of people, just want. I think in a lot of cases, you're right that just because it's free doesn't mean that private colleges would be going out of business from it. But I think in a lot of ways, there's so many people that, go to private college that, whereas if their public university was free, they wouldn't be going there anymore. Like with private colleges, they are already, competing at such a high level. And if they don't like innovate or make it a lot better, then they're already going to be put out of business. And a lot of private colleges already are kind of going out of business. So I think in some cases, yeah, when you make the college free, there's not going to be people, there's going to be people still going to the private colleges. But I think it's going to put a lot of free colleges, is going to put a lot of private universities out of business. And especially historically, black colleges in DC and stuff, they're not. I don't think they would be able to survive that kind of hit, because I think they're already having a lot of trouble with everything. They have to keep going to the government to ask money and stuff.
They could always, this is going to sound kind of dumb, but they can always go public. I mean, especially black universities like that. You don't have to be private to be a black university. Look at public schools, I mean, we obviously don't have segregation anymore, but there's a lot of public schools where they're predominantly black public high schools, predominantly white public high schools, and it can be, hypothetically the same thing with college. It doesn't necessarily have to be private.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of these private colleges are very religious. And you bring up a few examples like these black colleges that they don't need to be private. And I don't know all the details about it. I bet if you ask them, they would give you some reasons why, they should be private university, or they are a private university, because I think they would have already tried to, use that option to get into, a public school if it wasn't that big of a deal for them to go from private to public, because they keep asking for money. So there's obviously a reason that they're trying to stay a private university. But there's a lot of places like, religious schools and stuff that they wouldn't want to become a public college, because they rely on, because they're rarely because public colleges obviously aren't religious institutions, and they really kind of have the foundation based on these religious religious values.
No, I agree. Yeah, I don't feel like they would hurt as much because free college isn't like free college, right? Like tuition, like you still have to pay for books, you
Yeah.
have to pay for room and board.
Yeah.
Like it's still gonna hurt the pocket a little bit. Um, so I don't necessarily think people are gonna jump at like the whole like free factor, like oh like it's free, because like nothing's really free. So going on, I do think like I just think it's the best for the country. Like I said earlier, the doctor shortage I think is a huge thing that we need to be worried about. The NYU, the School of Medicine in 2018 announced that they would give free medical school or free tuition to whoever got accepted that year, and it it worked. So 22% enrollment went up by 22%. So I feel like if we keep doing that, then we can get more people out into these important fields like medicine, like psychology, and so on and so forth. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a big problem where colleges, obviously we can both agree that college costs are kind of way higher than they need to be, and there's a lot of ways you could lower the college costs, and there's obviously things that we already have, like plans in place, like financial aid and everything. And so if you just make it do this thing like take out a lot of the administrators or make the ratio student to faculty ratio larger, I think it will make college in general like a lot cheaper, and I think it'd be affordable to basically the whole population. And people, again, who can't afford it, they would be able to go to college for free. Like I said, 27% of people already do go to college for free, and I think if you try to put a lot of programs in place to help lower the cost of college, you're not going to have to take money out of all these places like the military budget, which can prove to be a dangerous thing to do.
But I feel like there's no real, because colleges are so for profit. Like who's to say that if we lower the student to teacher ratio, that money can stay in students' pockets, that it'll lower tuition? For all we know, it can go to profit. Like we don't really know what they would do with that money. There's something else.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be easy to figure out what they do with that money. So if you have an administration in place that gives these colleges certain requirements they have to meet, which would substantially lower the tuition, then I think if they if they aren't lowering their tuition, then again they rely on the government funding to keep a lot of these places open. So they're kind of the government. The government really has an advantage there because they are basically holding these colleges hostage, and you could do a lot of programs and things to lower these costs. And if you figure out, because we have these statistics that they're not lowering these prices, then you could try to put different programs in place, or you could just say, well, you need to lower you need to lower the tuition as a whole because we did all this for you guys, and you can afford it, and you can force them to do it, because if not, you could just take away the government funding.
I feel like the government should have a place when it comes to college, though, the same way they have a place where it comes to high school education, because there's a lot of loopholes everywhere having to do with everything when it comes to college. Like look at like the school that I'm going to for college heavily, like low key promotes on partying and frats and sororities and so on, which aren't bad things, but along with that, they cover up a lot of, sexual assaults and stuff. And because, like I said, they're for profit. So I feel like if the government had a little bit of control over um, colleges and universities, that could, and I think they need to have a little bit more control over high schools too, because the same thing goes on in high school sometimes.
Yeah,
But
that's what. Oh, you could go.
no, you can go.
Yeah, that was basically what I was trying to say. I was saying the government should, take more control of these colleges because it would allow for them not to make it so they don't need to make it free tuition. I think they should probably, take a little more control and do things and make them try to hold themselves up to a certain standard. And that's just like with anything. You see that with capitalism. Like, I'm a capitalist, and I believe that with capitalism comes regulation, and that's what you can do to try to kind of hold different organizations, institutions accountable. And I think that should be kind of the government's role in colleges, and I'm kind of surprised that it isn't already.
At the same time, because you said that 27% of students go to college, right? Or go to college for free. I feel like a lot of that has to do with financial aid, and it has to do with community college. Because a lot of places you can get into community college completely free if you qualify for the full amount of financial aid. But community college can only take you so far, and it's only like for a lot of careers that require a bachelor's or a master's, like that's like it's like nothing compared to what you're gonna have to study and what you're gonna have to do. You're eventually gonna have to move up to a university, which is gonna cost an arm and a leg. That, and also financial aid, only it's like if you're middle class, you're not gonna get anything, but you're also not gonna be able to afford college tuition, so you're kind of stuck. So I feel like if hypothetically we didn't have free tuition, we would have to have more programs like that in place. And how would that particularly not bring up our taxes, or not how would we be able to fund that instead of free tuition? Because I feel like they're kind of one and the same.
Well, I think granting kind of giving like things like federal grants and financial aid to a lot of people would cost a lot less than free college, first of all, because they're still paying something, but it's kind of more of a pay what they can afford basis instead of paying what they can't afford. And again, I specified that you pay this stuff through kind of taking a lot of things that colleges don't need to pay for, because I feel like they do a lot of wasteful spending. If the government clamps down on that, that wouldn't raise the taxes necessarily, and instead it would just make it so they could have a lot of free money to give stuff to students.
But I mean, I feel like it's not far-fetched to go from that to paying tuition, because like I said, paying tuition isn't you're not going to get free college from that. That's taking off a portion of what you have to pay. People are still gonna have to pay, and there's still to public and private universities, there's still going to be alumni and so on and so forth donating to these universities like they already do, which is another reason they're so profitable. So I feel like it's not a big jump to go from that to free tuition. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying, but I mean, tuition obviously costs a lot of money. That's why, as you said, Sanders' plan would cost $79 billion dollars a year, and I personally think it would be more because I don't think Sanders' plan accounted for that amount of people that would be going to college. It would be a lot more because it was free. But I think,
Well, it wasn't
well,
necessarily. It wasn't Sanders' plan. It was just like how much it would cost in general.
oh, really? Yeah, I just I just saw that was about the same that Sanders said it cost. So I guess that yeah, it's the general plan. But I think we all know that tuition generates a lot of revenue based on how much that costs. So I think if you take off like a chunk of it through like giving more financial aid to the middle class, giving more federal grants, I think that wouldn't necessarily like take off most of the money. That would only I don't even think that would just take like 30 20-30% of the money by just giving more donations to the middle class. I think colleges would still be able to generate the substantial amount of money they need that really allows them to stay afloat. And with free college, there'd be no money from tuition, and I think it wouldn't allow them to really generate the profit that they do to be able to keep these schools going.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it would keep them necessarily afloat though. That depends on like every household, right? Like me, like I'm very privileged. I'm upper middle class. I would, but somebody down the street from me probably wouldn't. And I personally feel like everybody has the right to free college, to not have that back pain of having to choose between going and like living off of ramen, or not going and having to choose not being able to do what they want to do and join the military or do something that they didn't want to do. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that kind of comes all down to the details. Like I still think like when you look at it, like I don't know if that when you do all the if you put more money towards financial aid or something, you make tuition less, do all the things that I said you did, how much impact it would have on people that kind of have a little less wealth, middle class than you or I do. But yeah, I don't know like the specifics on that totally, but I think, yeah, I mean,
I feel like
I think.
Oh no, you can go. You can go.
No, I'm just trying to find something. You can go right now.
I feel like if it's able to work, then like why not take it, right? And free college has been proven to work in countries like Germany. First off, 24 countries provide free college. And,
yeah. Well,
oh no, you can go. You can go.
All right. Well, I think the evidence, if you oh crap. No, what were you saying? I had the wrong thing.
I was just gonna say it's been proven to work. Like an argument is, like you said, quality. I guess like quality of the education can go down, right? But like in places like Germany and Finland, it didn't. They have some of the best universities. Germany accounts for 47 universities that are ranked, among the world. Like people love to study abroad and go there, even though they're paying tuition in this country. They prefer to study over there because of um, how good the universities are. And when college was made free in Germany, enrollment rose by 22% because people could actually go. And they're a wealthy country too. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I kind of looked at that argument, and things you kind of have to put a caveat there, because when countries like Germany kind of implement this system, they don't have um, a lot of the kind of freedoms and experience that an American college does. Like they don't have things like dorms, and they just put everybody into kind of large lecture halls to listen to the class. It's not really an American college experience at all. And I think that could work for a country like Germany, but I think that would be I don't think that would be a good thing in the U.S.
but at
You
the
know,
same time, like when Germany did that, it rose their taxes tremendously, right? Like it rose them by 30%. But here in America, we have um, places we can pull lots of money from for it to not raise our taxes by 30%. And I'm sure they could have had the more like American experience college if they would have raised their taxes a little more, or if they had more places to pull this money from. Um, but they don't, and we do.
well, a couple things there. First of all, if when you say that Germany rose their taxes by 30%, I kind of find that shocking, because again, they don't have all the stuff American colleges do that actually make it expensive. It's more just kind of like a large high school. So if taxes increase that much in Germany, I can't imagine what they would increase here. And I think that um, yeah, I just think I think that would cost so so much money. Like, and I don't like when you say you want to pull that from other places. I don't think we should be kind of grasping a lot of these different budgets, taking a lot of this money from a lot of other places, when it's much easier when you just make the adjustment to colleges and make them pay what they need. Then they could easily afford to give out things like financial aid. Instead, you would, because if you say that Sanders' plan, or no, not Sanders, just the general information that it would cost $70 billion a year, how many programs or how many things would you have to pull that from? That seems like a lot, a lot of money just to kind of take that out of the budget. And that would be every year too. And I think it would cost even more money, because again, when you have free college, I know you said that, well, we could just encourage people to do things like go into a trade or vocational sector. But if you make colleges free, people aren't going to be going into trade in vocational sectors. And as I cited before, we're already projected to lose millions of jobs from these different sectors that I was talking about. Have a $2.4 trillion hit on the economy from what I was talking about. And that doesn't include free college. That doesn't even, so imagine how much of a hit the U.S. economy would take from, implementing that kind of system. And imagine how much, because there wouldn't be as much there would be so much less kind of, plumbers, garbage people, electricians, there'd mechanics, there'd be so much less of your jobs. I can only imagine what that hit to the U.S. economy would bring. And that's not to mention, that would make, when you have so much less people in a position, that raises the price of these jobs, like plumbers and stuff. Like already, I know with me, like my mom tried to get a quote from a landscaper, and it cost like $1,000, and it wasn't even that much he had to do. They're already kind of milking you for a lot of money. So I know you're trying to say that, well, we could just encourage people to go to trade school. Well, trade school, like when you have college that is free, you're just inevitably going to have so many more people going to college. So if you have a shortage of jobs and you add even more of a shortage, like a huge number, like a lot bigger of a shortage because of the free college program. If that landscaper already costs $1,000, that landscaper is barely going to have any competition to lower its price in 2028, which I cited the kind of workforce stats from, and that means how much would their quote be done. So you could look at the hit it would bring to the U.S. economy, but like think about how much that would hurt individual households if they wanted to get a plumber. How much would that cost with like barely any competition?
But oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. If you, because earlier in the debate you said that if, let's say, you get a college degree, right? There's still, like, you can still not find a career. You can still not get all of these benefits. You can still have, the average Joe job, etc., etc. If when college becomes free, more people are going to want to enroll, which means that's going to happen, even more and more, and there's going to be more competitions in these fields. So I feel like once that, like after the first years of college being free, it's going to kind of trickle down, like not as many people are going to think, like, because a lot of people like nursing, right? Like people who can afford nursing, it's so competitive. And people who can afford nursing choose a different pathway because of how competitive it is. So I feel like, yes, along with encouragement, just college and kind of the system itself is going to turn people away, and they're going to have to do something. They're going to have to do something different. Like word's going to get out there about that when all these degrees start being handed out, and they get all these degrees and they can't find jobs and they can't get jobs with benefits. People are going to start looking at other options besides college.
Well, I mean, I don't have the specific statistic for that, but I think it's my understanding. I don't know if this is. I think college enrollment. Well, oh yeah, now I remember. It's not going down. College has, I think, increased its cost 2.5 times. I think since 1970. I don't know. Oh no, I think it was from 1980. They increased its cost 2.5 times, and the rate that people are going to college still isn't going down. I think that people really like college and really want to go to college because there's already been ways that people were discouraged from going to college before. Like the substantial increase in costs. Obviously, the median household income didn't rise the same rate as college tuition prices, but colleges knew they were able to do that because their enrollment didn't lower, and it didn't lower. People are still going to college even though they're making it much, much more difficult. So I think if you say, well, they're going to get discouraged from going to college because then, it's not, they're not going to be able to find the job or the degree they wanted. I think, well, that's already happening. 44% of people going to college already are underemployed. The cost of college are way up, and I don't think we're seeing any discouraging signs of people not wanting to go to college because the enrollment rate isn't lowering.
I think I would just have to disagree on that because, like, I know. Well, first of all, if you're gonna go to college, you have to get into college, right? Like, yeah, you can get into like your there's universities, a few that have 100% acceptance rate, but those universities only have like a 30% graduation rate. Like, it's usually the ones that have an acceptance rate like 40%, 20%, even 50 to 80% that have a higher graduation rate. So I would assume that a lot of kids that don't go to college would want to take place in those fields. And yes, finances has a lot to do with it, but it's also just college isn't for everybody. My brother dropped out of college his second week and he could pay for it. He could afford it. He just didn't want to be there. He didn't want to do it. And he joined the military. My cousin has tried going to college several times, different degrees, and she doesn't like it. She later found a job as a security guard, and she was able to pay for it. Even now, I'm about to go to college. Maybe I won't like it. Like, it's just, I feel like, yes, what you're saying is true. If we make it free, more people are going to get to go to college because they'll have the opportunity. But I feel like everybody in society deserves the opportunity for what they want to do, whether it's like just the opportunity of it, whether it's being a doctor, going to college, going into the military, or whatever, so on and so forth. And a lot of kids, even if they can't afford it, they want to go straight into the workforce. They want to do something else. They'll be able to keep that opportunity too. So I don't necessarily think that it's going to make a huge impact, considering that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of it would just depend on how much people like college. And like you said, they like some of your relatives already enrolled in college and they found they didn't like it. But I just think if you look at the overall trend, like if I were to make it like as hard as possible, like if I was a college admissions person and I wanted to make it as hard as possible for kids to go to college, like this is what I would do. I would increase the tuition 2.5 times over I think about around 40 years, and then I would.
But if tuition was free, then they wouldn't have the opportunity to increase it 2.5 times.
Well, it's just my point is I'm saying that they've already kind of made it where they're trying to make it really, really hard for people to go to college and afford college, and they're still doing it. Like they're not, like enrollment rates aren't decreasing because costs are going up. People aren't going into trade schools more. That's why there's going to be a labor shortage, or it's going to be a labor shortage because less people are going into trade schools. So I think by you making it free, you could say, well, you know, the underemployment rate is just going to drastically increase because if everybody has the same degrees, there's going to be even fewer spots for the job. But I think, you know, first of all, the college initially it would add a whole nother level of appeal by adding free college. It would make it a lot easier for people to go to college. But I think that, you know, looking at how hard it already is to go to college, I don't think people would just say like, you know, no, I'm not going to go after figuring out that everybody kind of has a degree in the same field. Like the underemployment rate's already like a staggering amount. Like you wouldn't think that 44% of people who get their degrees are ending up like working at a place like McDonald's after they get their degree, but the underemployment rate's already that high. College is already that expensive, and enrollment statistically isn't decreasing. So if you make it free, you add a whole nother appeal for people to go to college. I think even if you, let's say the underemployment rate increases to like over 50%, like 60%, I think people won't be discouraged to go to college still.
But at the same time, like, I don't know, you kind of make it sound like all of these kids are like trying to go to college and they're all like doing these like great things in college. But at the end of the day, out of all the kids that go to college, only 35% complete a 4-year program. So, you know, that says a lot about how expensive it is, and how much kids really do want to go to college. I don't think I don't think even when tuition is free, I don't think people are going to be punching down doors to go to college. Especially if we encourage, like, I think encouragement of other jobs and less of college can significantly do a lot, especially if the thought of college kind of becomes, I guess, normal. Because now, like, we glorify going to college, and we glorify, like, oh, you need to go, like, get your master's degree. You're not going to be able to do anything. You're not going to be able to find a job. You're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do that. If we cut that stigma out of you have to go, you have to complete, you have to do all these things, and we take some of that energy into everything that contributes to society, like labor school and, you know, so on and so forth, and we kind of put them both in the same limelight, then I feel like it could keep kids from going to college and keep kids from going and dropping out, because they'll be able to realize more quick like what they're good at and what they want to do. Because a lot of kids going into college after their senior year have no idea what they want to do, because we don't really promote what you can do. You know, we just promote going to college. But I feel like if we did, then I think that could help a lot in the big picture.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at it, I think that like a trade school, or if you get an apprenticeship, if you go to a trade school, those things cost money. They cost money, and again, I'm not referring to you know, room and board, rent, food. Obviously, those things would add substantially to the cost, but still, if you want to get an apprenticeship, if you want to get into a trade school, those things still aren't free, and those things aren't public. So you can't really say, well, we could just make those free too. So if you have a parent, let's say you have a middle class parent, lower middle class parent, and they say, oh, so I see free college on the one hand, and your son, and even if the son doesn't really, even if the son isn't going to get a degree that's going to help him make money coming out of college, and even if they would be more suited for a role such as like a plumber or something, I think the parents would say, well, if you look at the one hand, this college is free. And if you look at the other hand, this trade school, this vocational school, this apprenticeship, this is going to cost money. So I think even if you try discouraging colleges and putting trade schools and colleges at a even playing field, when you get down to the root of it, when they have to decide, all right, should we go to the trade school or should we have them go to college? They're going to say, well, the college is free. That's less money. So we're going to have you go to the college. And I think a lot of people will make that decision because I think, if it's free, that that's kind of a huge appeal to people in society.
But I feel like even if, because I'm only talking about local college, right? Like you can still go out of state, you can go wherever and pay tuition. And there's obviously going to be students and families that choose to do that. There are now, like if you have military benefits, like you can go in state wherever you are for free, but lots of them still choose to go out of state. It would, where was I going with this? Oh, so I feel like it's going to be a lot less than 79 billion. And I don't know the statistics for it because I didn't look into trade school or anything. But I feel like we could push some money into it, especially if it's less. Because 79 billion, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, isn't all that much with all of the places, especially that already have to do with college, that we can take money out of, like tax credit and benefits and things like that. So I feel like we could have the money to push money into that, or the funds to push money into that. But like I said, I'm not 100% sure because I didn't look into it. But
yeah, and I think this is where we kind of find the base of the problem. Will the added, encouragement of putting free college and trade schools on an even playing field as a society make it so people wouldn't go to college as much? I think that, I don't know. I just think if you look at it, I think there's going to be so many. Like I think in the best case scenario, if you're right, like the free college wouldn't really tamper with trade schools, and in the end, a lot of students are going to go out of the college and go into the trade school, even though the college is free. I think if you look at it, I think the best case scenario would be like still only like substantially more people going to college than to trade school. I just don't know how you would say, maybe you can, that that if you encourage people to go into other areas besides college and you do all these things to try to make it, I think in the end college will always be free. College people still like kind of the college experience and being in a dorm and stuff and being in the mess hall and having these friends. You don't really get that in the trade school experience. I think, if you put it in the best case scenario, I still think a lot more people will go to college. And again, I don't think we should keep the college costs at what they are. I think we should reduce it for people, in the gray area, because we have the people that already go to college for free, that 27% of people, but there is a whole kind of gray area where people are still carrying student debt until they're 30, even 40 years old, which really just that just shouldn't be the case. Like it used to be, well, you could just get a summer job and you could literally pay off almost all of your college. It shouldn't be the case that, you're still at 30 to 40 paying off your loans. But I think if you kind of make it cheaper to where it wouldn't be devastating, and I think there's ways to make it where it wouldn't be devastating, where you don't take out money, then that would be a lot better of an option than making it completely free. Because I just feel like there's nothing that beats the word free. And there's, I just feel like that would just put a tremendous hit on our economy through labor jobs. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about
that. There's nothing better than like the word free, and there's a lot more things to do in a society than just go to trade school and go to college. Like you can own your own business, you can join the military, you can, there's construction, you can move your way up. There's so many things. There's so many things that you can do besides those two. Even fast food. Like if you live like somewhere, like I live in Texas, it's not like you can live here off of minimum wage. And we promoted like becoming, managers and store owners and so on and so forth, which are just as important to society, and which is an easy option and a cheaper option, considering in both the scenarios of trade and college, you would still have to pay for room and board and books and stuff. Then I think a lot of people would try to, snatch the opportunity and work their way up through, chains that way. So, yeah, I feel like there's just a lot more that you can do than just those two things.
All right, we're at the 1 hour mark. I don't know if you guys have any like new kind of things you guys want to bring up, or if you guys want to like start to wrap up, whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, I'm fine with wrapping up. I think we kind of got to the whole core of the argument, and it's just a disagreement on whether people would go into different options in college if you made college free.
Yeah. Do you guys want to make like any closing statements or anything, or do you guys just want to, just?
Do you want to make a closing statement?
I like just a closing remark. It doesn't have to be anything too long.
No, not really.
No, I'm fine.
All right. Yeah, I guess that's it for today for the free college debate. Thank you, Angelina, and thank you, Isaac, for coming on. And of course, check out their social media and everything, which is all going to be below in the description. All right. Thank you, guys. I'll end the stream now.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.